Good morning, Ultra developers. This week we're going to talk about the first Leadwerks games bundle. We're going to talk about tessellation and displacement features in the upcoming next version of Ultra Engine. And we're going to take a deep dive into texture design for levels, for game levels. So, last week was the release of the first Leadwerks games bundle. This includes Leadwerks itself, along with Cyclone, Salvation Land, and Photomuseo 3D. You can get these on Steam right now. And the whole bundle gives you a 25% discount. And then, because Leadwerks is on sale this week, a pretty deep discount, 80% off. You can get massive savings with Leadwerks, so you can build games, and then 3 games created with Leadwerks by developers just like you.
Yep.
It says, start building your own games with Leadwerks Engine and discover indie titles created by developers just like you. That sounds like what I just said. This bundle includes Leadwerks Game Engine, along with 3 games created with Leadwerks. Unleash your creativity and embark on an exciting journey into game development with Leadwerks Engine. So this does include Leadwerks Engine, and then Cyclone. It's a puzzling first-person action platformer. Photomuseo 3D, you discover all the hidden features in this little interactive exploration adventure. And Salvation Land, welcome to the future after the global flood. An exciting adventure awaits you as a young wanderer named Victor. Destroy the sinister plans and become the liberating hero. And this is pretty interesting because we're starting to see some results from the sales. We're getting results. On my end, Leadwerks isn't selling in a lot of bundles because I think most people who are buying the bundles already have Leadwerks. But everyone has reported in substantially increased sales. And what's really interesting here is if we click on one of these, you'll notice that I didn't think about this, but let's see. Oh yeah, there it is. Duh. So Cyclone now shows up on Salvation Land's Steam page. And Photomuseo 3D now shows up on Cyclone's Steam page. And they all show up on Leadwerks, on the Leadwerks main Steam page. And this is actually really, really good. I didn't think about this aspect of it. I just thought about you guys being on my Steam page. But your visibility on Steam is what determines your sales. And this is very good visibility. So that means when Salvation Land is on sale, as it is this week, Cyclone is going to have increased visibility on Steam. And when Cyclone is on sale, Photomuseo 3D is going to have very good visibility. So we're all helping each other with this network effect. I would like to do another bundle, a bigger bundle with more games. I'd like to add Concealment, a Demon's Game, and Blade Quest to it. I think that would make it even more attractive. More games.
Can you just add it to this bundle, or?
Well, yeah, but when I put out an announcement, I'll call it Leadwerks Games Bundle 2. Because that sounds cooler than we added 2 more games.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
You got to think about these things, man. It's not just about
code.
I
never did. I always had someone else do marketing.
So you got to add some pizzazz to it. You got to jazz it up.
Okay, well, how about this pizzazz? If you buy Cyclone with Leadwerks, Cyclone allows you to edit and create new maps. So that's a great place to start if you're starting your Leadwerks journey.
There you go. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. See? Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here you guys are on the Leadwerks page. Very cool. So I'm happy that we can give you increased visibility. Let's see, this news article has 6,000 views. So it's a good start. It's a good start. I think this idea has a lot of potential. Second
Yeah,
up,
and I think
oh well, yeah.
well,
Yeah. Let's talk about this before we move on.
yeah, I was just I think this is like going forward with Ultra Engine because a lot of people want to know what other games are made with your engine, and they kind of use this to justify their purchasing decision because it's like, oh well, this game used it, and you know, like they want someone they need to. It's human behavior is weird. They want to see if someone else made the journey before making the journey themselves. And a good example is like when I moved up here, no one dared to move up like where I live now. Now this house is all around me because we proved that you can live up here.
Where do you live,
So I
Moss?
guess no, I live like in the middle of like I lived in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York, and now this house is around me. But the but it's kind of the same thing with game engines. Like they don't want to just jump into a game engine where I've seen evidence that a game can be fully made using the tools and engine. So I think having bundles underneath the engine is a great opportunity to explore what you can do with said engine.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. Any other thoughts on
That's the
the
thing.
games bundle? We got to get concealment in there. Hope to hear back from the author on that. Some other ones that would be nice to have. More games equals more views for your games, equals more traffic, equals more sales. Um,
Yep.
okay, second thing is tessellation and displacement have been prioritized. So that's going to be the main focus of 0.9.8, which gives us a little bit more time for the first-person shooter template. Um, there's been interest in this feature. So, and this is stuff that I developed a year ago, and then it just never made it into the new rendering backend. But now I'm bringing it to the front, and it's not that hard. This is in the current build I have, and you can see this is the smart subdivision feature, which it does tessellation with hard edges. This is so cool. This is all automatically calculated. And you can see some texture stretching here in the tessellated version. And I need to, my quad subdivision formula is not, for some reason, it's creating these curved vertices throughout the shape at some points. So that's one of the things I need to settle. I know yesterday I said that I was going to release this morning, but I think I need to spend a few more days on it. It's really good, but I'm kind of like in the middle of stuff right now, so it's not a great time to put out an update. The next update now, for the first 2 or 3 weeks after the release of 097, I just kept 098 and 097 in sync pretty much, so you can switch back and forth. When the next update to the beta branch goes out, it is going to break compatibility with 097. The vertex layout is going to change for the vertex data, and so the shaders are going to change. So it will I'll call it 098B, so it'll automatically kick you over to the project manager when it starts up for the first time, and it'll prompt you to update your shaders. There's some additional information saved into the native model format, and so the version is being upgraded, and so that means that model files saved from 098B when the next update goes out, model files won't be loadable in previous versions of Ultra. So because of that, now is a good time for you to choose. Do you want to stay on the beta branch and get the latest updates and whatever rough edges that involves, or do you want to stay on the more stable 097 branch? I'm also creating a branch of what we have right now, and I'm just calling that 098. and then the next one will be called, and so you can switch it. That's kind of an archive that you can switch to. It'll be up temporarily until the final release of what we have now on the beta branch, if that makes any sense.
So we have to re-import them,
Re-import what?
the models.
No, it'll load the old model files. I'm just saying, like, when it saves files, it's going to save it with in version. I think we're on like version 303 now, or something like that. So the version packed into that model format will have some additional data, and so it won't be able to be loaded in older versions of the software.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but all your
for that.
existing models are fine.
Yeah, I noticed that with the maps too. One time I loaded up a map and like I saw nothing, and all I had to do was resave and reload it, and it worked fine.
Well, yeah, we can usually avoid that because they're all JSON based. So if I can add new information to the format, and it's no problem. But model file is all binary.
Yeah, well, it was with the game. It was like my game couldn't load the map, but the editor could, so I just saved the map in the editor, and
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah. So I don't know what you did with the maps, but
Sometimes the editor is a little bit more versatile.
well, you also changed how prefabs worked, according to your release notes.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that had something to do with it.
Possibly.
Or the render layer update or something, because that screwed up a lot of things too.
Yeah, it's fixed now. Okay, so okay, I know what happened. The render layers it was saved with the render layers set to 0 in the file format. That's what must have happened. Okay, so the way prefabs get loaded has changed to. This does two things. It makes it makes it a little bit more predictable where, like, when the component load methods are being called, and you no longer have to worry about, well, technically you should be able to account for the situation when the world equals null, but in practice, that's not going to be happening. It no longer, like, it loads the prefab anew from the stored scene data every time it loads an instance of the prefab instead of loading one entity and then copying it. And this also means that flow graph connections should be retained from when they're loaded from prefabs. If you just make an instance of an entity, it doesn't have any way of copying the flow graph connections because it doesn't know that the target flow graph targets are being copied. But how it works now when it's being loaded from the scene file, the prefab file each time, then those things can be retained.
I tested this. I only tested it on like the little push button I have. It didn't save, probably because everything is linking to itself, and it probably doesn't know what to do because it's linking to itself. But I haven't tried doing like linkage between two entities, so I'm willing to give that a try.
Well, I mean, it might, it's possible it might not be working right now. I haven't really tried it, but what I'm saying is, like, now there's, like, the design allows for it to work, whereas before there was just no way. Because if you make an instance of an entity, it doesn't know that the target of a flow graph connection is also being copied. There's no way for it to really know that. And that's why that was the primary reason why it just wasn't supported before. But now we can do that. Drake Black, cleverly, he reported a bug that turned out to be, and then I investigated it more. He thought it had to do with lights, and he was right, but I was able to nail it down even more finely than that, and it was simply just, turns out NVIDIA's drivers, not the previous drivers, because I didn't have a problem with those, but when I installed the latest drivers, I did have the problem. And NVIDIA's current drivers, have a bug where there's a memory leak when bindless textures are used in OpenGL 4.6. And I reported this to NVIDIA about a month ago or so. And last week they reported, I asked about it, and they replied back to me. Sorry for keeping you waiting for our updates. Good news, the issue is root caused and fixed in-house. The issue is root caused and fixed in-house. The fix will aim a next new feature branch driver 565 series in next month soon. Please keep close attention to our driver release page. So, because of the heroic efforts of Drake Black and everyone else involved, we were able to fix a major bug in NVIDIA's driver that affects the whole world. So you, sir, are a hero.
Yay. Yep.
I feel like
Really
the golf
cool.
clap is a little underwhelming. We should have like I want like crowds like roaring, like cheering, like really loud. Okay.
Yeah, you were breaking up earlier, but it's fine now.
Sorry about that. Okay, so Leadwerks Games Bundle, and any comments on Tessellation? I know it's kind of in the middle right now.
So with well, it's gonna be really great to have that back. But will you also be adding in refraction back into the editor or the engine? I don't know if that has been snipped at the engine completely, but in the editor it has been. So
No, it's in the
refraction
engine. It was out of the editor for some reason. Probably has to do with the render layers or something. I actually forget, but I can take a look at it.
Yeah,
See,
because
I
that's
can't.
also because what you're doing right here is that you're making it like more easier to do materials in the engine, and refraction is something you need for like glass. If you want to make like frosted glass or something, that would be really cool. And it's just hard to make frosted glass or anything because you can't see it in the engine and in the editor, and you have to load up your engine and
Yeah.
pre-configure your camera.
So there's a couple of there's some good information in my blogs about the tessellation implementation. This supports hard edges, and it also can calculate. It doesn't tessellate. Doesn't have to always tessellate everything. You notice this is only splitting only subdividing the sides vertically, and on these triangles, it's only subdividing the outer edge. So it's really smart. It's able to calculate this just by analyzing the mesh topology. And as a result, you can get these clean, beautiful edges. I've never seen anybody do this, actually. I don't know if it's ever been done. Here you can see, this has to be tessellated in both directions, or subdivided in both directions, but this, here again, the end cap does not require a lot of extra triangles. It just needs some around the edges. And they just line up perfectly with the edges.
Yeah, I remember you doing this a while ago, and it wasn't really like advertised or really used. So.
Well, it requires some other stuff. This is really cool. There's one thing I had to implement was you have to make the displacement scale with the texture mapping scale in global space. So like if a texture is applied to a wider area, then the displacement should also get bigger, right? And because things need to stick out more. If the texture is applied to a very small area, then the displacement needs to shrink, because otherwise you'll get like tall, skinny rocks sticking out. And I've got an example of this. So here's one example. You can see these surfaces. This is like an acoustic tile material. I like using this because it's very easy to see what's going on. You can see when the texture scale is small, it's applied, so it's repeating a lot over this same area. The amount it sticks out is smaller, and then as it gets bigger, it sticks out more. And that seems like a really simple thing, but it's not. It requires a lot of math, and it's not. There's usually not, especially for organic stuff, there's not an exact solution, and so you have to come up with an approximation. Here you can see this is the same object. So the object is a box and a sphere next to each other. And this just shows that when the object is scaled up, the displacement also scales accordingly. I'll have a lot more to say about this later because it goes a lot. It's a much, much deeper topic than you probably might realize. But we have tools built in that will handle all of this stuff in an easy way. There's some distortion of the texture here you can see, so I need to fix the quad interpolation. It's not just interpolation, it's doing like a quadratic Bezier curve or something like that. It's kind of complicated. That's something I'll be working on next. Very cool stuff, though. We also have a solution for eliminating cracks and seams. And that's what you're seeing here. This is just a standard, regular, low-poly cylinder. And what we do is we pull in the displacement on the edges whenever there's seams. And so you can't really see it, but what that does is it seals the mesh. And so that's very versatile. You can use it with any mesh. Just find the edges and have those get sealed. And then it closes the mesh, and you don't have the cracks and problems that I think initially prevented tessellation from gaining widespread adoption. I think that more than anything else, I think people just got to the point where they were seeing cracks in the mesh, and then they thought, oh, okay, this isn't really useful. But I really wanted to see if I could come up with a solution that would fix these issues. Got a good screenshot of it if I can find. Yeah. This is the problem, right?
Yeah.
And here's the solution. I mean, it would be better if your normals and your UV coordinates aligned perfectly. If you can do that, you should. But if you can't, this is a great solution. You just pull in the edges, and everything is awesome. Look at that. So you can do this. This means that all your BSP brushes, when I'm done with this, you'll be able to just drag out your BSP brushes and have walls this detailed, just from BSP geometry. Meshes. What's that?
But they look like meshes.
Yeah. You want to put a column down? Fine. Just drag a little cylinder with constructive solid geometry, and you've got rocks popping out of it. All kinds of cool shapes. This is just a very low poly cylinder or cone, and that's what it does. So yeah, this is awesome stuff. It's a little bit difficult to control it, but I'm writing the tools that will fix all of these issues for you. So this is going to actually be the main headlining feature in 098 now. There is some interest in this in the industry, so I'm going to prioritize that. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about level or environment textures for level design. And I'll just go over to our conversation here. We just had some images that are kind of worth looking at. Um, we were thinking a lot about variations of textures and kind of templates. So this is a nice example of 4 variations that fit well together. When I have stuff like this, it's very easy to design a level because you see the textures and then you get ideas of what to create. So there's some
Yeah.
variations. Here's an example of like top, middle, and bottom pieces and all these different variations you can have. You can do a lot with this because you can take this and move it downwards and just have like a top and a bottom, and it's like, oh, okay, this gives me ideas. 2 variations of windows. Here's some more variations of like top, middle, and bottom pieces. So, if I wanted to make this, 10 stories tall, I could just keep repeating that middle piece over and over again. When you have stuff like this, there's just so much you can do with it. You can get really creative with this kind of stuff. Here you've got a bottom of a wall, top of the wall with trim at the top. You've got a middle section. There's probably another section that's just like plain brick. There's probably a section that's like windows plus the trim at the bottom. And
Yeah.
when you have those, then it's like the textures just guide the geometry really well. Here's an example where there's kind of geometry sort of baked in, like hinted at in the texture itself. These columns sticking out. I think there's lines in the texture that hint very strongly that that's what you're supposed to
Yeah.
do.
And then in the old version of Source, these are all from Halo 2, but before Source changed their shader system, those used to be popped up by normal maps before they went to the SS bump system.
Okay.
So yeah, because this was 2004, so
Yeah. So, and these are probably like a nice big power of 2 number right here, so they line up very easily with your geometry. So when you have stuff like that, the textures guide your level design very much so. It's very hard to make levels without textures. We also looked at some now from a more modern project. This is something called Half-Life RTX. I just randomly came across these looking at when I was looking at. I was just searching for material examples. And this is a more modern example of the same thing. You can see how this could very easily form like a theme with the blue stripe across the bottom. You've got 2 variations of wallpaper here. This is a really nice one. You've got a wall with windows on it, and then a wall by itself. You might want to, this might be something for like up high on the side of a building, because if you're this close to it, you might want to use an actual 3D model of these windows. But it's some interesting ideas. And then I want to watch, some people say that constructive solid geometry is not good for level design, but I think it's amazing for anything man-made, especially when it's like you need to change it, when you need to edit it frequently, and you need easy access to things. I think really the best way to design this kind of stuff is with constructive solid geometry for like the basic shape of everything, and then go back and detail everything with 3D models that are specifically designed to fit into the right space. So let's take a look through this video and just specifically look at the level design and the textures. You can see the buildings are made up of constructive solid geometry blocks, and then you just have a lot of props populating the area.
well, technically that's not correct, but we can imagine it.
That's what it looks like to me.
It's level geometry, but Source 2 uses mesh-based systems instead of brushes. But you can use meshes as brushes if you really need to.
Well, I mean, Okay, so you can drag out a box and the coordinates you drag define its dimensions, right?
Yeah,
That's what
but
I mean.
it's
That's basically
yeah,
it.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure like because of optimization, how Source 2 works, they probably did faces and subdivisions and everything. Because what Source 2 has is pretty much Blender. But yeah, you can easily replicate this in brushes. You are right about that.
It's really all the same thing, but
Yeah. Well, you're not gonna get that arch that smooth in brushes. I can tell
yeah,
you
you
that.
can just use smooth groups. Let's take a look at. I think he's gonna go back there anyways. Go back there. Let's take a look at it. Oh yeah, you can out. You can definitely do that. You could do that in
If you're
constructive solid geometry, and then use smooth groups to make that nice and smooth, and then have tessellation on top of that. So no matter how close you get to it, it appears smooth. You could do that.
we just need smoothing groups.
In Ultra 098, you can do that.
Oh, we're gonna get smoothing groups finally.
It would be. It would be nice.
Really
So
nice.
again, you can see these repeating pieces out here. You just have to build it once, and you don't have to model every single triangle. You just build your repeating pieces and then throw them in the level wherever you can fit them.
I also like half of how everything is higher detail because it's meant for VR, and then when you put it on a flat screen, it just looks incredible.
Yeah, our tessellation would look really nice with on on like cobblestones like this, because we'll have them like raising up out of the ground.
Yeah, but you don't want them to be too up. You know what I mean? You don't want
It
it to
won't
be
be too
flat as
much.
piece of paper, but you don't want them to be
It'll
like.
be the correct amount. Now look at the textures on the wall there. That's kind of interesting. You can tell there's like some detail. Like I'm not sure what they did here, but you can tell like it might be a texture that's designed that way, or they might just be shearing the geometry and moving it. You know, so the texture mapping vectors are like this direction and that direction. But it looks like there's a lot of detail here that's meant to fit with the stairs. Piece of bread.
A
Very
good
nice
piece of
bread,
bread.
the most realistic bread. And you can see this roof is a fairly simple shape, actually. If they stop looking at the sky. You can see the buildings, and the roof there is a fairly simple shape, and then it just has, you know, this mesh popping out of it, this mesh, chimney's another piece. Simple geometry for the big stuff, and then lots of little details added to keep it interesting. And when you make these repeating details like this antenna, you can just use them over and over again. Yeah, this is just a box room. I have some
Well, now
meshes like
it's all
this,
box rooms this year's made.
like these pipes and the chain link fence. I have some stuff with like the chain link fence. I think we should definitely make something like that. Pipes always look great. Look at the pipes on the ceiling, and then wrapping around because they're designed to fit in that space. It's probably a set where they have like a curved piece and a straight piece.
They use something like sorts too.
What's that?
Yeah, a tile source too, where how it's really weird. Pretty much, you know how you make like brushes in like camera or your tools. They have it set up so making making like pipes and stuff is as easy as connecting brushes together.
Okay, so you think
So
those are all unique?
Like
You think those are unique
no,
for the
they're
level?
all preset models. They're all preset models,
Oh,
but how they're arranged and connected are unique to the map. It's just an easier way of adding multiple props to a map. They just drag out to the shape they need it to
Oh,
instead
nice.
of placing models.
That's a good idea.
And it automatically adjusts based on like because you always have like that one like you have like the smallest like pipe, but your wall is like it's somewhere you want the pipe to be, and your wall is be jamming.
Yeah, I've thought about like some like smart geometry kind of things like that.
Yeah, so that's what they have with the tile sets in Source 2.
That's
I'm
a
not
cool
really
idea.
familiar with Source 2. I only like looked at it, but yeah, but there's a lot of things like what other people are doing. We can, especially for level design.
So yeah, very high definition uh, level here, but it's basically using the same techniques that we use now. And I think this kind of approach is so great because it allows you to output the most content. I mean, for indie developers, your time is your biggest limitation. So anything that allows you to create more level in less time with less effort and have it be modifiable the most easily is really good. I mean, trying to go through and build this entire thing in Blender would be just impossible.
Not impossible. It just take forever, especially and you have to know what
Well,
you're doing.
since time is finite, that means that it's impossible.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's a bit hard to complain or to compare a AAA game with an indie game.
Well,
Or
that's what we're aiming for. Yeah, what I'm saying is like this. I think this approach is the most like what I'm describing. I think is the most efficient way possible.
Right, because not only like it's AAA, but you gotta understand that these same tools are available to modders, and sometimes the map developers, the modders, make better looking maps than Valve's. So, but the issue is that they have all those assets ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's not the tools, it's the assets that's really the issue here. Because if you give people everything they need to succeed, they will succeed. But when you jump to your own engine or a different engine, and then you have to do you have to be like me and do everything from scratch, while worrying about other factors of the game, that's when everything bottlenecks.
Yeah, so I think the lesson here is like we need to think about. It'll be a lot easier if we think about the parts, whatever parts we can get the most reusability out of, and then create those. But before we get into that, like that's kind of a step ahead of where we are right now. Before we get into that, I want to talk about environment textures for level design. Now, given everything that I've laid out here, like I'm open to all possibilities. And I was wondering if you guys have any more thoughts on this issue. Like, how do we? What's going to be our best way to efficiently make the textures we need for the example level that we showed last week? What do you guys think?
Use that size, and then we create derivatives based on those textures, and then that will be a texture set. This way, we're not starting from ground zero, but we are, but we, but we are, but we not have the whole thing where we have all these isolated materials in a vacuum, and also we can actually color correct them. We can make sure that this concrete goes good with this brick, and we can cross compare them through all of them. But the other option is just do everything from scratch, which could be more time consuming.
Can you say the first part of what you said? Because I didn't catch
Um,
that.
we used the PBR materials we can find on like MNCG and Polyhaven, and then we take that into Blender or GIMP, and then we adjust them and make variations of that texture.
Okay.
That's plan A, and then plan B is to do everything from scratch, which could take more time.
What do you think, Andy?
I think there are many good materials out there on MBNCG and the other free platforms. And I think the textures are not our biggest problem, to be honest. I think it's more about the details for the models itself. So
Okay.
if you make, I posted a few examples, I think in the group with Cyberpunk, and if you make, for example, just a building with four walls and no detail, you can have the best textures in the world. It will look, yeah, not that interesting.
Okay.
Like
Where did
if you
where
have
did you?
many
Oh, okay.
details.
Yeah, the cyberpunk screenshots. Yeah. I'm not too worried about that stuff because I mean, if push comes to shove, I can model that stuff for us if we need to. I mean, like mechanical modeling is fairly easy for me. I can't do organic stuff, but like if we need stuff to populate the level with, if I have to, I can do that myself.
Yeah, I think the issue is like modeling and texturing are two different beasts. Especially when you do textures for models, because you have to worry about like where grime gets stuck in, and then you have to see how rough it is, and it's I think that's a different challenge than world materials to place on brushes, because at least with world materials, you know that the surface is flat for the most part, and you can adjust, and it's easier to make those textures in my opinion than textures from models.
Well, I mean that's where substance painter comes in. Like Andy showed us a, a while back, he had a really nice tutorial where he was walking through the usage of substance painter, and he showed how it makes it very easy to get pack a lot of detail into into a texture that's specifically designed for one model.
Yeah,
So that's probably the way to go with those things. Yeah, I mean, after he showed that, like, it was very clear that like that was a very
I
efficient way to go
I
about it.
I
Right now.
but like
No,
I think that's even wrong. I'm just
yeah.
saying that's stupid.
Hold on, I
It
gotta
is,
see, I gotta see if I can improve my bandwidth here. This is not good. You guys are breaking up. Okay, yeah, someone was watching a movie.
Mm.
Uh, sorry, what were you guys saying?
We were discussing that it seems like Adobe's might made it the only way to paint textures on models, and while I agree with Andy, it's the only way. I think it's stupid it is the only way.
Well, Substance wasn't even, I think 5 years ago, Substance wasn't from Adobe.
Right.
For a lot of money, and I think there's a good reason for it because Adobe, yeah, is going more into the 3D, and yeah, at the moment there is no other software which is able to create these results.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah,
an
which
open source one. It's called like, is that what Armor Paint is?
you try it. It's not. I will root for it. The controls are very clunky. I bought it because I didn't want to compile it and I wanted to support them. But
Wait, you bought Armor
that's how.
Paint? Oh, okay, okay, I see.
Yeah, yeah. You can buy Arm Paint for a precompiled library for precompiled, or you can compile it yourself. But it can do image to textures automatically. It has a good algorithm for that. Um, but when I went to Armor Paint, you have to, instead of having, unlike Substance Paint, we have all these brushes and all these materials ready to go. Armor Paint is pretty much, there's nothing there. It's, you can create materials, you can apply them, you can load face IDs, you can paint you can paint things on it, you can paint brushes on it, but everything you have to create from like building a library or
Yeah.
installing someone else's library. So that's a shortfall. But I will root for it because it is open source and it's currently and you shouldn't have a mono solution for anything.
Well, Armor like if I was Adobe, I would donate money to Armor Paint because that as long as there's an open source, a bad open source program, that ensures that no competition will form. Because anybody who wouldn't use Substance Painter won't. They'll use the free
Um,
thing instead of buying a competitor's software.
this thing is gone, but I don't know if I should tell it or not because it's Epic did someone else and someone similar. So there will be an equivalent, but yeah, you
Yeah.
have to wait until if you can use it or not.
All right. So, okay. So there's kind of three ways I can think of that we could proceed.
Mhm.
One is to uh, get the sizing exactly right for the template kind of stuff that we want to use. And this is the only screenshot I have like that. But like that. And then at least we know the sizes that things are going to be for all the details that we want to line up. And then we
Right.
can fill this in.
Yeah, I there's already development texts. I'm developing from this doing
I can barely
there's
understand you guys. Hold on.
I know.
I'm going to try disconnecting and reconnect.
Wait,
Okay, I'm back.
I can hear me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So they're already in X1. They're already template textures with the door and windows. And all I did was open your PaintShop profile, and I just imported those shapes into my development textures. I have the stairs, I have the door, and I have the window. I don't have the trim or anything, because I didn't think that was like, because the trim can vary based on like what you're making. But I could probably do something where
Hmm.
I can put that in.
So, and
Also, no, I also want to ask, do you think the textile size should be still 1024, or do you think we should go bump it up to 2048?
I kind of
Because a
want
lot
to.
of these
I want to do like who's the chef in Futurama?
Bender is for
No, his hero, the guy with the pig nose and the four arms.
uh,
Like says Sislak or Lar
I don't know. Wait,
Salzar. Is that it?
uh,
Bam. We're gonna
yeah,
bump it up a notch with my Spice Weasel. Um,
yeah.
I kind of want to bump it up a notch with the Spice Weasel, but I don't know if we need to. Let me ask you, Andy, if you had, let's say we get rid of the grid lines on here, and we just have like three colors, because that looked like what you were working with when you showed us you were using Substance Painter. Like, if we give you a texture like this, where you've got one color for the wall, one color for the window frame, and one color for the trim along the bottom, how hard is that to turn? Is that easy to work with? And is that something you can turn into a texture in Substance
Like a
Painter?
mask.
How you mean this material ID? Well, you need to have the exact UV codes
I
also.
could,
That's
I
easy,
can
isn't it?
turn. Yeah, I could paint one in GIMP
Yeah,
for you.
but I can't use only an. I also can't use in texture. I need a model to apply it, so
Can we
it's
just
not
make
Well, we
like a
can.
possible.
flat plane and apply this texture
Yeah,
to it and see what we come up with that?
you would need to have this as a model, this wall piece, for example.
Yeah, we can do that. It would just be like a flat, it would just be like two triangles forming a quad, and then apply this texture to it, and then send that to you. Would that be something worth experimenting with?
We could experiment with this.
Yeah, I could paint. I could paint. I could take my dev textures and I can just make like one the background red, the trim blue, and the window frame green, and then Andy can use that as a material ID, and he can paint wherever he wants on it, and he can, and I'll give him like multiple versions of like this is a door without the trim. This is a wall with the trim with no doors or windows. This is this with that. So
Um, Substance for buildings is has not that good resolutions or results I encountered because the texture size is too small to have a good wall, for example. So either you use bigger texture sizes or you use the UDIMs or you use the old workflow where you have just pieces like puzzle pieces for the wall for the for example a wall with a door and a window and like you showed here.
I think that's what we want is puzzle pieces.
yeah, we want into everything has to be like Lego bricks.
Yeah, if I have stuff like that, it's very easy to work with. And then the third, okay, so that was like the two ideas I had, and then like the third way we could approach this is to focus on the props that populate the level and not worry much about the textures.
I think that's harder because when I was working on Cyclone, doing the model textures was always easier when I knew what the environment was going to be. This way, I knew that the colors were right and if they stood out or they blended in more. I'm just I'm just talking from my experience, but that's I think it's easier to work on the environment more than props.
Well, I mean, I think we could probably do both, but I don't have a license for 3ds Max right now. Unfortunately, this is actually now we're at the point where we could actually really use Marcel's help. Um, but actually, I know somebody else who has volunteered in the past. I'll I'll send it to you guys and let you take a look, and you can tell me what you think if you want.
All right. Mm.
But yeah, I think we could. I think at this point we could probably use another person who specifically just models props to model pipes and rails and girders and things that are precisely sized to fit into a nice big power of two space, so we can just snap them into piece like a puzzle piece. Um,
All have to know about origin points and anchor points and everything. So
yeah, yeah, that's that's what I like about working with Marcel is he knows he already knows all of that stuff and he does it right.
Yeah. Hope he comes back.
Well, there are many people in the world, so but he yeah his work is quite good. Hope he's doing well. Um, any other thoughts on level design, you guys? What do you think?
Uh, I mean, it is the thing that I like when you were talking to when you were discussing it. It's like to me, it's like you just want FLQ's texture library, but for modern graphics, and I'm all on board on that because it was again coming from the source and you had like all those like pieces to play with, and then when you go from lose, you can recapture that. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'd like to like break it, look at other games besides just Valve stuff, but those are the ones that are the most accessible.
Yeah, and most people are used to it. A lot of engines don't supply tools for their engine. Do you know how Dune 2016 or Dune Eternal? Because you downloaded those tool sets. Did they do the same thing, or did they just have like one base material and then you have to vertex paint and decal pretty much the rest of it?
Okay, so Doom 2016 it shipped with something called Snap Map, and it's just like these preset rooms. So it's not good. But the id tools, I downloaded it and I looked at it a little bit, but they were so unintuitive. Like it's like when you when you load up the level, you can't even see anything. It's just like this blob. I didn't. There might be some good ideas in there, but I didn't get very far into it because I found it to be extremely unintuitive. I think if I remember right, I actually think like the level designer, the grid, it actually it looked like it came from the old Radiant editor from Quake 3,
Mm.
and
No, I just want to know what other engine games use because I only have that only besides your engine and I background with source and I know like how they solve those solutions
yeah,
or those problems rather.
yeah, I'm all for looking at other considering other ideas too, but it's hard to find
Yeah,
stuff.
without the tools and like without the tools and everything, it's kind of hard because you have to like imagine how they did it. Well, with source, it's like, oh, well, here's this tool that allows you to look at all the maps and without
Yeah,
the SDK tools and look at textures and look at models and
yeah, I
you know what I
definitely
mean.
like
But
having the modding tools available. It's very nice to learn from.
yeah,
Um, Terrain patches for level design would be dope. What are terrain patches?
Uh, well, I mean, we kind of discussed it once in the chat. Uh, if you also want me to share screen, even though I've just opened a YouTube video, quads in Unity or other game engines, the quads, it's like basically a single phase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing is terrain patches. At least that's how Call of Duty has them because I checked the old Radiant and I was have version you can move charges and they have a lot of functionalities
Unfortunately,
because let's say you
okay. Your audio is
you have
breaking up quite badly.
I heard him.
or
Okay,
oh really
yeah, I
wait
it's better now.
wait okay
It's probably on
I
my end.
just searched um if you want you can just check it's just a YouTube video anyway.
Okay.
So basically this is like a flat surface. It doesn't have other faces. And if you have, for example, two of those, you can combine them. And they have made it so. Wait, I just wish I had the mod tools installed right now, so I could show you myself. But it's like it very similar to the terrain system that you have in Ultra. but it's just that you can create more, because as far as I know, you can create only one terrain and that's it. But let's say I want to do a face of a house. In Radiant, you can do that very easily because they have like a multiple tools to do that. You basically draw a brush. It has the cutting option and such. But with terrain patches, it's even better. And as the name suggests itself, it's more like it's way easier to create terrain with them. You can also blend them
Oh,
between each
nice.
other. So what Call of Duty does is that they have one blend option. You see that there are two textures here.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is blending, and one of them is not blending. And the one which has the blend feature, you can edit the alpha so it can be transparent. And what they do, for example, is that they put a non-blend rock texture, the brown one, and then they can also put another texture which is blending, which has a blending feature basically, and then they can edit it. And I'm not sure if this guy is doing it,
Yeah, I saw it. I
but
think I saw a
basically
little bit.
it's the same thing that you have with the terrain. But as I said, what if I want to make only a little, like only the face of a wall? I don't want the whole terrain. And
Right.
yeah, basically that's it. In the next meeting, if you want, I can just download the mod tools and showcase the whole thing, basically, because I have worked a lot with Radeon, and literally is the easiest level editor that I've seen so far. And before I even knew Ultra Engine, I just found it randomly by a YouTuber. I knew that it has those features, and it's like I instantly wanted to just get it because I thought it has those features. But then later I found out that it doesn't. I always hoped that you would eventually add them anyway.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, I cannot showcase much right now because I don't have the mod tools installed. But when I install them, next time I can also show you how it works. It is really easy to work with them, and I think it would be great because not a lot of other engines have it. If I want to build a level in Unity or whatever, they usually just drag and drop the assets, but it's not that good.
yeah, there's
Actually,
so
it's better if you make it.
what you're describing is another version of some stuff that we've described. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about the possibility of taking the basically the same texture splatting functionality that we have for terrain and applying that to everything so that everything is paintable like a terrain is currently.
Yeah, I read that in the chat.
Okay, yeah.
Actually,
So that would be something that would cover part of the functionality that you're describing. And then another
yeah,
feature that we've talked about is making displacement brushes. So to do what you're describing, you would just draw a box out and remove all but the top face, and then enable subdivision on that box, and then manipulate the vertices that way with some tool that kind of sculpts that. But the thing that's nice about that is if you can build a rough layout of your level with brushes, and all the brushes are made out of boxes, then you can, if you can do that, then you can do caves and all kinds of crazy outdoor scenes. And that's really, from what I've seen, that's the best approach that I've ever seen. That's what they did in the game Dear Esther. That's how they created all the terrains and caves and stuff in that game. I think those things together would sort of be like would cover all the functionality that you're describing probably. But if you want to like show off, if you want to show like some of those features in more detail, then yeah, I'm definitely open
yeah,
to watching that in the future. And
yeah.
maybe
So
we'll
I mean,
get some
I don't
ideas.
know if you can see the screen. Like it's what I was describing earlier. They basically use a couple of patches, but I mean a lot of at least old Call of Duty custom maps, they use a lot of brushes. At least I know that until 2015. They use the basically Radiant. That's their level editor, and they use a lot of brushes. I mean, I even have one of the custom apps that I did. I actually have it live building, and I use a lot of brushes, same as Call of Duty does. But they changed it in the recent in the latest Call of Duties. I don't know why they changed it, but I don't think they are using the old engine anymore.
Yeah, this basically, I was researching this. Brushes are something from the
Uh,
old workflow.
and
And
one thing, so I don't forget why I was also requesting you like a feature to just switch the 2D tabs, because in Ultra we have like 4 of them separated. But I was used with Radiant, and as you can see, it has only one tab. But if you press Shift
I
plus
think
Tab,
I
it
think you
will
might be
switch.
showing that you're showing a YouTube page. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
there we
but
go.
it's basically Radiant anyway. So the 2D window that they have here on the left side, if you press Shift plus Tab, it changes perspective. Like in Ultra, we have 4 of them. But
Oh
let's say
yeah.
I want more space and I want to keep only 2 of them. In Ultra, it's good that it has the 2D layout that you can edit, but I have to click a button and then tell it that I want to go from the XY
So you're
viewport,
saying
and
you
it
want a
will change.
hotkey to
Yeah,
switch the
yeah,
use?
yeah. But I
Okay.
mean, always like if you have plans on changing them, because you might have like better plans for some other stuff. But it's just a suggestion, basically.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean,
So
we're already using Shift Tab to switch the mouse tool that you're using, but we can probably come up with something else to switch the current to cycle through the views on the current viewport that would work.
yeah. And
That
yeah,
would be handy.
basically this is the terrain patches. But what they have good is that if you have like 2 of them, since you can edit vertices, they have made it so if you press Shift and you select one vertex from one terrain patch, and then select a second vertex in the other terrain patch, you can press W and it connects them. And with that type of thing, you can make a lot of cool stuff, actually. A lot of things that you don't even need to do in Blender or whatever. It's easier to do them in Radiant, and those kind of, yeah, rather than opening Blender or whatever. Like, why do I have to need a second software to do just brushes?
Well, I think when you have level design tools that are a subset of everything you can do with a modeling program, it's easier to build good workflows because you don't have to build a workflow that does everything. You can just focus on, you don't have to worry about trying to build an animated character model or something like that in here. So as a result, I do think like specific level design tools do have a better workflow in terms of like how much you can produce per hour. I think they're just more productive, more efficient, because they focus on a subset of the functionality of a total of like a modeling program that does everything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
One thing I don't like about Radiant is you have to specifically set up a material to blend in between two textures, right?
uh, no, as I said, for example, in Ultra Engine, you have the terrain system, and you put a lot of textures in there,
Yeah.
and you can paint. But what I was saying is that, at least how I have done it, I don't know if they have it. They just have 2 patches, one on top of each other, and then in the top patch, they just modify the alpha, and then they edit the blend, like same as in here, like same as what this guy is doing. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he has like 2 patches, one on top of each other, and he's editing only the top patch, and he is just removing the alpha, making it transparent in the vertices that he's selecting.
Well, that's going to be extremely inefficient because all that alpha
Yeah,
blending is expensive. What we would like to do is to just be able to paint any material anywhere without any
yeah,
special
yeah.
tricks, without any setup. That would be the ideal situation.
Yeah, I mean, the Radiant version that they are using anyway is very, very old. It's before like 2008. It's definitely for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Oh yeah,
They
I
they
remember. I
they
remember this
always
program.
update the engine.
Yeah, I remember this
Yeah,
program.
but yeah, in general, if we just had like something where we can just build faces and we can edit their vertices to just make more terrain, like, or terrain or whatever shape we want, it would be like very cool, because as I told you before, no other engine has it actually. If it has, it's a private engine. I don't know any public engine yet.
Let's see
So it would
level.
be
Yeah,
Well,
there's a really good.
the
Sorry, someone was speaking.
yeah, I think he wants to have something like we have before the foliage system, where you can create multiple terrains and yeah, move them around in the scene, and yeah.
yes, but look, let's say I want to build the faces of a house. I don't want to generate a whole terrain about it. I want only like a quad, which has only one face, and that's it. I don't need like a huge terrain to generate it,
Yeah,
because
Same. I mean, you guys are saying the same thing basically. It's just okay. So originally in our editor, like a few, and if you go switch back to a version from like a few months ago, you could create multiple terrains in the editor, in the same editor we have right now, and you could rotate them and move them around. And the problem was, it was not very good. Like it made the workflow kind of bad. It was hard to select it, and it was easy to yeah. It was just difficult to use, and it also made the foliage system, like getting the math right to get everything aligned perfectly, was really difficult. So in the editor, I switched to just a concept of like one terrain per world, and that made everything a lot easier to work with. But I also see like your point, like having like a kind of a more limited, deformable quad that's subdivided.
yeah.
I think that could be very very valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because one case, for example, since I have played a lot of Call of Duty Zombies, is that they have a lot of stuff with blood and trash and whatever. If I wanted to just build like a pile of trash, I can just take a quad, edit a couple of vertices, apply a texture, and that's it. Like,
You would do that with a displacement map. You would do that with a model or brushes.
no, but I mean, if I get a model,
Mhm.
um, I don't think the model will come with the alpha. That, like, on the edges, I don't want it like to
Oh,
be to be
like the scorch marks and the blood and everything. You could paint it.
Yeah,
You want to.
with the system that Radiant has, the one that I was showing, it is very, very easy to do it. But if I just got a model, that's why I don't like getting models, like, in general. That's why that's the point that I'm making. It's because you can edit the alpha value, and it's very easy to build stuff that way.
So
Also,
basically,
in Radiant, it has one more thing. It has like a feature. I'm not sure if Ultra has it. Let's say you build a brush, a thing that Ultra has. You build a brush. You can select a face, and then they have like a material which is a little bit different from the default one, but it makes so you select a face and it does all of the other phases of the brush that you drawn. It makes it like not visible. They have no visibility, and then when you load the game, you can see only one face, and then the rest is just gone. And like they do it for performance issues. I'm
Yeah,
not
we
sure if
have
Ultra
that.
has it.
We can you can hide faces in
Okay,
alternative.
okay, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, the face tool is a little bit It's a little bit like weird. And that's something like I was thinking about while you were talking about the face tool, because the face tool, um, when you, it's easier just to drag a material to a model or to a brush and have all the six faces change. But when you make a brush and then you want to use the face tool, you have to select the face, and then you have to go back to the material you want. But and then you have all this like dead space in the face panel. But yeah, there's the hidden tick. If you
what?
tick it, it would just hide that face. That's not really necessary 90% of the time, but if there's like any like shadows or anything that's like being like you for any reason you want it to be hidden, it's there.
I
It's
like to,
just
I like to after a level is done, I just like to go through and hide all the faces that are interior. And I know it doesn't
yeah,
really make any difference. It's not going to really make any. It probably won't make any appreciable difference with the performance, but I just find it to be enjoyable.
yeah. In Source, I did everything in no draw, and I would actually map everything out in no draw and then apply my textures to faces. But if we can have like an algorithm that actually auto hides unseen faces, that would
That
actually be
would be
really
cool,
cool.
actually. Okay, so what you guys are, I mean, like on a very rough level, like what you're describing is basically unique mesh geometry that's unique to the scene, but is something other than brushes. That's what I'm hearing. That's what you're saying would be useful to have, and I think
Yeah,
we should start with that concept and try to figure out, okay, what's the total scope of functionality we want, and then design something from that. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for that kind of thing.
And also, one thing you have to think about is how it's going to interact with the train system. What happens if you make a train, but you want to make a house with a basement? Like, how would that work? You know what I mean? So you have to like think about that use case.
Oh, I've got a great idea actually that I think you're really going to love.
Hmm.
I was thinking about having a okay. So if you want to currently, if you want to make a bevel on like a brush, you make a wedge, or you take a box and you shear it to a
Hmm.
45-degree angle, and then you line it up on the edge of the box, and you use the carve tool to take a bite out of that box, and you make a beveled edge. What if there was a per face setting that would just add a bevel to the edge of the face automatically?
That would be cool. I still want my slice tool because another way I would do it in Source, I would just take the slice tool and slice out that corner off.
Well, and then it could, if the top and the bottom, if you have a wall or something, and the top and the bottom faces are hidden,
Mhm.
then the wall face that's pointing to the side, it would just get a bevel on the sides where there's a connecting face that isn't hidden. So it
Oh,
would
is
only be
this like
beveled that way on those sides.
so? Is this what we discussed last week about like rounded corners or on edges of walls, so it's not like sharp on like walls?
Yeah, and it would just
Or
it could use the if those two were in a smooth group, then I guess it could just. There's a
right,
few ways to do it, but what I'm saying is like there's a lot I can do with brush geometry because I'm gonna have to do some of this stuff anyways to support tessellation to make it work
right,
right because I've got to add like a skirt of polygons around each face. At which point, so that the very ends of it are going to have displacement set to 0, so that
okay,
it pulls in the edges, so you don't have those cracks, and then it'll go in a few centimeters, and then the displacement will be fully enabled. And I also have to slice up that surface because you can only you need polygons like every like 1 or 2 meters or so maybe, because the tessellation subdivision can only subdivide so many times. So if you have a really big object, it'll like run out of subdivisions it can use. I think it's like 32 or something like that. So
mhm.
there's actually like quite a lot of extra things that I can pack that I can just automatically generate with the brush geometry because I know what because it's a convex shape. I know what I have all the edges. Like I know if I have one face, I know which faces it shares an edge with.
Right.
So there's actually like a lot of potential there.
So pretty much what you're saying is instead of having the first person, I think instead of having the first person template be the focus of this update, I think you should focus on tessellation and those brush tools to make everything look more high poly than what it actually is. and then we can build on top of that when we make our template. Um, and also, if you can do that whole thing where auto hide unseen faces, I think that will actually help with what you're describing too. Because if you can automatically hide unseen faces and then apply the tessellation, everything should just work without any weirdness.
Well, there are techniques that lower the polygon count by a lot for the
Mhm.
tessellation stuff. But it's still probably it's probably a quality setting. Like scenes should work with or without it, and
Right.
with is that's gonna be your high quality settings. Without, that's gonna be your low quality settings. So
Yeah.
let's see. I've got a really good screenshot in here. I think it's on the next page or the next one.
Yeah, like I think what we think the issue right now, we want to make it we want to use brushes, but have our game not look like it's made of brushes.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good summary. Here's a couple of other screenshots I actually want to show you guys.
Mhm.
So this shows the original model uh, right here. And this is what happens with just normal tessellation. You can see not only is it with the naive tessellation, it's just a lot of polys, and that edge down there still isn't rounded. If you look down here, it's still not rounded. But then when we apply our algorithm to it, that edge becomes rounded, and it's also lower poly. So we have fewer polygons and higher detail, which is a very nice combination. This is how tessellation can be made practical. Like that right there. That's really good
Right.
stuff.
And
Um,
that would also help with arches to make the arches more smooth instead of making like how we make arches now
Yeah.
in the engine.
and this shows the difference in polygon counts that can produce. You can see how much simpler it is when it only uses the extra vertices that it needs. Looks like there's a lot of extra there,
Yeah.
actually. I'm not sure. Let me get another look at this. Yeah, this is better. You can see how many vertices are wasted here, and each of those vertices is one run of the tessellation evaluation shader. So if we can, and that does form a bottleneck. That this does make a real difference.
How long does it take to calculate that on a modern CPU or GPU?
Like half a second.
Alright. So it's not
Um,
something you won't regret pressing and having the editor lock up for a little bit.
no, it's just yeah, it's a fast process. Um, okay, so on the texturing side, okay, so the main feature in 098 is going to be the finished tessellation and displacement features, the subdivision, the smart subdivision. And previously, I said it was going to be the first-person shooter template, but circumstances have changed. So that's gonna come out in about 4 weeks or so, which gives us more time with the first-person shooter template. And on the texturing side, I think what we want to do is start with a few templates, like images where the details are painted out in different colors and aligned very strictly to big power of two numbers, so that we can line up
Yep.
level geometry with those and just see what we're able to produce with that. And then on the modeling side, is there anything we can do right now? I don't have a license for 3D Studio Max right now, so I can't even like model anything.
I can do made models. I just when it comes to UV mapping and texturing, that's when I just wing it. So, but again, I'm only one person with limited time, so I can't do like everything.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
one thing we can do is sketch out. What we actually can do is sketch out a lot of the repeating details that we've talked about, like these chain link. We can take a graph paper actually and sketch out like the size they're supposed to be and what they fit in. That's actually like something that would be something really good for me to do, because I can picture so many things and
Right.
how they would fit into
Um,
the level, and they would be very reusable.
One thing I want to ask you, can you revert the map to use dev textures? Because you push the map with a lot of textures that we don't have in the repo, and it makes it like harder to like make changes or
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. And I yeah, we and I also want that tessellation in before we start doing any good textures. I
Uh,
could paint that.
I don't know. I wouldn't
Well,
really. I mean, are we really?
well, tessellation, the tessellation thing in the editor right now is broken. Like if you open a material with a height map, it'll fail to load a shader.
Right. But I mean, how heavily are we going to be using tessellation
Well,
in
we
this
want
scene?
well, we kind of want for the brick walls, you want that height map in the bricks.
Yeah.
You want maybe tessellations for the pavement. You not you probably don't want tessellations for like the industrial like shed texture, metal plate shed texture. But it's mostly for like bricks and just to like see how much if we can use tessellation or height maps we should. Or else everything is gonna be look flat. I don't want it to look flat. Again, I want it to look more modern and tessellation really helps with normal maps because I don't think normal maps do enough.
Well, if we do create anything from, okay, so if we send Andy, if we send you an image like we're talking about, and we say, this should be trim right here, this should be something else, and you produce that in Substance, anything you export is going to include the displacement map, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we're. I mean, I think that means that we should be good, right?
Yeah, good. We get the displacement map. Yes.
Yeah, but we can't put it in the editor right now. At least with the build that's live right now because it's broken.
Yeah, but I think we
So
can reasonably expect that it will work correctly.
yeah, yeah, we just won't apply the height map, but we won't get the final result.
That'll be along next, like sometime next week. I'll put an update out with that.
Right. But yeah, I can repaint those dev textures so they're actually ID maps and you can just pop mix max. Mm, I think what we want to do we have to go to he has to go to his material library, find the materials that look good, and then he has to like make them blend in and make a final texture of all of that,
No,
and there has to be more.
let's
Well,
just let
let's
them
no,
let the man work.
yeah, no. I'm just trying to think like how we can do this
Yeah,
because I understand what needs to be done. It's just I'm
I'm
interested to
sure.
see how
Yeah, I'm sure the results will be very good. This does seem like a good resolution between like what we were sort of like struggling with. This might be a good resolution. Look at that. That is beautiful.
yeah. Again, that would be very good for arches because right now the arches look very like angular, and if we can just add tessellation and smoothing,
Yeah, and
it'll look great.
it's also fantastic for VR. You can actually have lower polygon geometry
Hmm.
when you use this stuff because
Hmm.
you don't have to worry about. Yeah, you can have very low polygon geometry with this, and it
Speaking of
just
VR, it's broken again.
what's broken.
There's this weird projection thing. I can actually send you the project. I see it has I think it has something to do with the light. I loaded the start map. First of all, the like I did the VR template. First of all, the like character, the model character is like really really big, and it was like based on right, so I deleted it. Put a pivot in. set it to the VR controller, and then I just used the headset. I didn't use the controller, just used the headset, and I was getting like these weird like projection issues. I think it's because of the lighting.
Hmm.
So I can send you that project if you
Okay.
want it.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
But I expect the shades to break anyway because you're doing the tessellation thing. So I don't know how. I didn't know if I should wait until you got this in because you're doing major shader edits. So
Yeah.
maybe it's fixed already. I don't know.
So also the I'm packing more data into the vertex layout, but I think the vertex layout is actually going to get smaller. I figured out I can use half floats for texture coordinates. I think I can use them for position. Right now, I'm using half floats for vertex positions, and I haven't seen any downside to that. I don't know. I might switch it back to using 4 byte float, like full floating point floats before I release anything. But it's down to like I've packed a lot more information into it, and it's down and it's only 36 bytes per vertex, which is quite good. That's not very much at all. So we could probably afford, yeah. If I switch to 32-bit floats for the positions, that would give us that would take 6 more bytes. So we would have that would be still be 42 bytes per vertex, which is not very much. I think Leadwerks used 58. Q tangents. Storing your tangents, normals, bitangent in a quaternion is a really good way of saving space.
Something would be also really cool, but has nothing to do with tessellation, is that you have a field in the editor from the entity, if you have a model selected, which you can open the file or the path to the directory in
Oh
the
yeah,
browser.
yeah. That's something I want.
Because
Like, so if you have a model selected, it shows the path to the actual like model file.
yeah, exactly. And with a button below, maybe where you can click and the asset browser opens in this directory. Because if you have many models and searching a specific model could be a bit hard, then
Yeah, I agree. I've experienced the same thing myself. I think that's a great idea.
And maybe we can apply that like
I think it's even an easy thing to do. I think so, at least.
It's not terribly difficult. Um, we might see that soon. Let's see what Santa brings, but or the Tooth Fairy, but it might very well happen soon. What is Invo? Is this a modeling program?
You could have a look in Blender, Josh. I know you know 3D
I
Max,
know
but
Blender. I know Blender. I can't do anything with it.
this is kinda thing. There are some artists out that say, okay, Blender is more intuitive than 3D Max, and then you have some other people that say, okay, 3D Max is more intuitive than Blender. I think they have both, yeah,
Yeah. I
positives and negatives.
I find 3ds Max very easy to make mechanical shapes with. I'm actually like pretty. I can pretty much model anything with hard edges in 3ds Max very easily. Gmax is actually my favorite modeling program of all time. Probably nobody knows what that is, but there was a version of 3ds Max that was released as a modding tool for different games.
wasn't that the XSI mod tools that
Probably.
Valve was shipping? Yeah, I remember.
No, actually, I don't know. I don't think they ever had anything to do with Valve, but it was used for Quake 3. I don't think it was actually used for the production of Quake 3. They just Gmax discrete. It's been scrubbed from the internet. Oh, I need to use Google image search actually because I have no idea what's going to pop up on Brave.
Oh look, it's on archive.org.
Oh yeah, I love this. I love that splash screen. It looks so cool. I'm a gamer, man. I've got my gamer glasses. I'm in the Matrix. These hallways are popping out of my glasses. It was here it is, Gmax Wikipedia. It was 3ds Max. It was only the parts of 3ds Max that I actually use. And so it was a very simplified interface. It was only the stuff I needed. And it had a dark theme at a time when I think 3ds Max did not. And it could export MD3 files. Gmax, man. I'm a gamer to the max.
It's a bit like the Leadwerks starting screen. This image here.
Yeah, it turns out 3ds Max is not that great of a tool for making Quake levels. I think the fundamental difference is like, if you put a box in the scene here, then you're going to scale it. You can't really like grab an edge and pull it where you want that edge to be. Unless you can go into vertex mode and stuff. So again, it's sort of like this is, 3ds Max is a very capable tool, but it has to do too many things. And so it has a more complicated workflow, in my opinion. But it is, this is a really great as a modeling program because it does everything that I need. And I think it looks cool. Anyways. Gmax, okay, well, maybe I'll take a look at Invil then. $10. I will take a look. Thank you for your suggestion. Okay, that's all I've got for this week. We talked about the Leadwerks Games Bundle. We talked about Storyteller. Good to see you. We talked about tessellation and displacement. We talked about level design issues. Do we have anything else to discuss?
Last week I released a new extension that turns your specular maps into roughness metal maps. So if you have a bunch of textures that were using the old shading system that you just want to import to Ultra Engine, you now have a one-click solution to that one right there. Yep.
Is it really one click?
Yeah. So if the texture has a spec or specular or /s suffix at the end, and if you right click over the source file, you'll get a new option that says specular to metal roughness. And then what that does is that it puts the pixels in the right channels, and then and then you can use the metal roughness values to adjust it to the desired look.
I counted I counted 2 clicks in that process, but it still sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, so that's the floor texture from Cyclone. So
how does it figure out what
the raw specular data goes in the blue channel for metalness, and then it flips the pixels and then puts that in the green channel for roughness.
Huh. So that means that white stuff will have low roughness, will be smooth, right?
Yeah, be smooth and metal, and then green will be very rough.
And how well does that approach work? Oh,
very well.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah.
Yes, and this was very important for cyclone textures because it has all that sparkles in the concrete. It's not just flat. So and you can adjust it based on how much you want. This has I think a lower roughness than the walls, so you get that nice specular gloss across the floor. So it actually looks like tile.
That is really nice.
Yeah,
I bet that looks beautiful in motion.
Yeah. So
you got the edge highlights there. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's the metalness working in it. Even though it's not metal, it still simulates the specular the specular system. So that's actually another solution you have as an independent game developer. So if you don't want to make if you don't want to make two, if you're hand painting and let's say you're making a very stylistic game, and if you're hand painting, you just have to make a specular like you did in the past, and then you can have the editor flip the pixels on you, and then you can to adjust it for the shading, modern shading.
Nice. Okay, so let me what do we call this? A sample
It's like I can do that, Josh. So it's not really a big deal.
complex material. We'll call it that because it's made up of different things, right? It's not just a single material across the entire surface, right?
Oh, for what? The very simple complex
We were
material.
talking
Oh
about
yeah. So it's a material ID, and you want your
yeah.
template to be a material ID, so Andy can isolate things.
Yeah. We should just do a
I can
test
again.
like that on graph
Yeah,
paper.
I can do that. I can do that in GIMP pretty straightforward. I'll do one, and it'll be like a very complex one. It'll be the border, the door frame, and the wall, and we'll go from there, just to see how it'll play out.
Okay. And then my job is to draw. I should take some graph paper and draw a bunch of props to scale on the graph paper that we intend to use. Because I've got a lot of ideas about stuff that will fit into the scene and guide the geometry that we can build around. And everything will just fit together like puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and if it's something even I can do really quickly, I probably will do it because if because what I've been noticing about you and I working together is like you just draw it out, and I'm able to like get it in real life, get the results because I have something to go off of. So we'll see.
And then also we can design template textures, anything that we don't have already. We saw the example of like top, middle, bottom pieces. We saw the example of stairs. We could probably use some stairs that are just like a straight that don't have a landing in the middle, that have like a straight shot all the way
Right.
up the wall. So we probably want like a 2048 by 1024 texture for that if we're going 1024 for our base size. Design template features and like the edges of the stairs. That's another thing that came up. We should come up with all those ideas and probably draw them on graph paper first. So actually, like I'll make the number 2 and 3 here. That'll be my job primarily to get done.
Okay. All right, and I can. Well, I'll just extend what I already have with. I have the GIMP file on the repo. I'll just extend on that to make the template stuff. And then we can turn that into a material ID once we're happy with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that might be our best approach, and that way we're sort of that's a nice resolution that combines kind of like it's kind of like some of it is the old way combined with the good aspects of the new way.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
like yeah, I think that's what we have to be. We have to embrace the new things, but we have to remember what made the old things so great and easy to work with.
That might be a really good approach. What do you think, Andy?
I think the brush thing is I don't like it.
Yeah,
It's
I
it's
know.
it's a really old system, and yeah, it has many downsides, especially in a modern engine. I can understand that you can box a level really fast, but you have not that many options to make an object as detailed as another software. For example, you are not able to bevel. You can't make arcs or something else, and yeah.
Well, again, we're doing this as the advertised way, but with Ultra Engine, you can make a game any way you want. So if you actually have the artists or the skills or the tools to do everything, you can make a game however you want. We just want to advertise the brushes because it's easy and intuitive. If that makes sense.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what we're going with. But I mean, yeah, I still understand your point of view. Um, do we have anything? Do we have anything else to discuss this week?
No.
All right. So you can still get the Leadwerks Games bundle.
Yeah.
It's at a very good price right now
Yeah,
because
it went down because Salvation went on sale.
oh, that's on sale too.
Yeah, it was 21.21, and now it's like 18 something now.
Yeah, it depends on like how
Who's
many.
on sale?
It depends on like most people. Uh, a lot of people, based on the numbers that we talked about, it looks like the majority of people who buy this already own Leadworks, but some of them are new. Um,
Because
so
I think if you already own Leadworks, you still get all the games at a discount
yeah,
because
so
you're
you
buying them
get
as a
you get
bundle.
these games at 25% off. Let's take a look. Actually, I want to take a look through your games. We'll start with Photo Museo because it's at the top here.
Yeah, I was showing this out to other servers, and Kudo Museo would interest a lot of people because how weird and strange it is.
It's very normal.
It's weird.
It's normal. This is a normal game. There's a lot of variety. It's like you're in space. There's an airplane. Now I'm defusing a bomb or something. I'm Indiana Jones. Oh, there's a mummy. I love this. There's a ghost. There's a deer. And a teleporter. On a train.
Hola, buenas. Aquí tienes mi entrada para acceder a la exposición. Muchas gracias y disfrute de la visita.
Yeah, I've played through a few levels of this, and it's definitely just packed with a lot of different things. And the developer logs are very interesting to read.
Que tenga un buen día.
And they're available. It's in English too. So that you definitely won't be bored with that. Let's take a look at Cyclone.
I just did a gameplay trailer because I don't know how to make good trailers.
It's kind of like Portal, but it's a totally different concept.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is an old trailer. This is old. It's old version of the map.
Well, this is the first one on your Steam page.
Yeah, but it's an old version of the map. I just didn't. I just didn't want to make another video. I don't like making videos.
Oh, I think it's fine to use this. I mean, it communicates the idea, which is the important thing.
Right.
This is a really fun game, just like a lot of really mind-bending puzzles. And again, it's like it looks similar to Portal, and it's got like that feel to it, but it's also a completely different concept, as you can see.
Yeah. I went through a lot of different art stuff, and this is the art that looked the best, played the best, got good frame rate on a 1050. So this style actually was mostly based on like how well I can get the lights and performance and everything. And also, I was one person working on it, but it does. Cyclone does what the other games what you're talking about. It uses the same material, but there's so many other variations of the same material.
Yeah. And it's not just puzzling, it's also got a lot of it's got some platforming sections where you're bouncing around. You're basically like there's a mechanic in this game that's very cool. It's basically like rocket jumping in Quake, where you can shoot a cyclone into the wall and then bouncing back and forth between walls. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and also I put time challenges in. So there's segregated maps for doing all the park tour stuff. And so if you are someone who likes to be at the top of the leaderboard, that's for you. While the rest of the game is mostly just puzzles. So.
And if they have Leadwerks, they can open up the Cyclone maps and make new maps. Is that right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Everything's unpacked.
Awesome.
Everything's unpacked.
So let's take a look at Salvation Land. From the people who brought you Chosen One Cola. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is really well done. Yeah, I played through a few levels in this too, and it's a lot of fun. There's story, action, really interesting environments. Really nice animation there. Uh-oh. Ugly guy. And fish. You have fish.
Fishing mini game.
You can catch a boot. Very cool. Yeah, this is definitely another one that you want to check out. And it's 50% off today. Good price, part of the Leadwerks Games bundle. Get it all on SteamGames.com.
Yeah, right now.
Less
than $20.
And I believe I've reviewed all of these games, but this is a good opportunity for us all to show some love to our fellow developers. Get these games and give them a review to help boost up the number of reviews they have. That really helps. And while you're at it, Ultra has a very good review score on Steam, but we'd like the count to be higher, because in the future I'm going to go back to Valve and ask for a special feature that will help give Ultra better visibility on Steam, and it also help any games that are connected to it have better visibility. And it's easier for me to do that when there's a higher number of reviews. It's not just the review score, but it's the number of reviews on Steam, because it's a weighted average. So your reviews on Steam are very much appreciated. Leadwerks, of course, is good, but Ultra Engine Pro is where they are really needed the most. So your reviews on Steam really help what I'm doing, and I'm sure the developers of these games would definitely appreciate a thumbs up on Steam as well. Let's help them out. So with that, we'll conclude this week's video. Thank you all for watching. Great discussion as always. Everyone had really valuable input, and I will see you on the forums.